All right, this is pre-algebra, last one for chapter 3. So we're on 154 in your book. If you guys would, it's very important to follow. This is, notice the vocabulary is exactly the same as the last one. We have our less than and our greater than, our less than and equal to, and greater than and equal to. Less than, greater than, less than, and equal to, greater than, and equal to. Those are exactly what we had in the last lesson. So that should be a review to you. A solution to the inequality basically is the answer again. And remember, there are many answers. Equivalent inequalities are inequalities that have the same answers. All right? So I know that's fast, but we already had it in the last one. It's going to be a little different right here. On example number 1, actually a key concept. Let's look at the key concept box on this right here. It says multiplying each side of an inequality by a positive number produces an equivalent inequality. Multiplying by a negative number, you have to reverse the direction of the inequality symbol. That will then produce an equal one. So basically, in a nutshell, here's our key concept. Okay, when you multiply, actually, let's just do them together. When you multiply, sorry if I banged that microphone, multiply or divide each side of an inequality by a positive number, it produces an equivalent inequality. Equality. Okay, but on the other hand, if you multiply or divide each side by a negative number, you have to flip the sign in order for it to be equivalent. Okay? So I'm going to read those to you again so you guys understand. I know my handwriting is kind of crazy. So right here, you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by a positive number. It produces an equivalent inequality. If you multiply or divide each side by a negative number, you have to flip the sign in order for it to be equivalent. Now I know in words it doesn't make a lot of sense, but let's check this out in this problem right here. Okay, so when we're solving this inequality, we're trying to get n by itself. We say this side, this is negative 1/8 times n. The best way to get rid of a fraction with a letter is to multiply by its reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by negative 8 over 1, which is its reciprocal. We multiply this side by negative 8 over 1, we have to multiply this side by negative 8 over 1. And really negative 8 over 1 is just negative 8. Excuse me, I got something's caught in my throat. Let me get a drink of water here and then that'll help it out there. So I'm solving this equation. These right here cancel out because two negatives make a positive. There's my n. Over here, 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. Now let's look at these rules. Did I multiply by a negative? I did, so I have to flip the sign in order for this answer to work. So n is less than or equal to negative 16. So let's just pick a number less than negative 16. Let's pick one that 8 will go into. Let's say negative 32. An eighth of negative 32 is negative put in negative 32. Has to be greater than 2. So an eighth of 32, when you take an eighth of something, you divide it by 8. That would be 4. 2 negatives make a positive. So 4 is greater than or equal to 2. So that's true. You have to remember, when you multiply or divide by a negative in order to get the letter by itself, you have to flip the sign. If it's not a negative that you multiply or divide by, you leave the sign alone. So they're going to talk about flipping the sign right there. So let's check this one out. We have negative, we want to solve for m, okay? We say this out loud, negative 3 times m, which is what we were doing earlier in this chapter. So the opposite of timesing by negative 3 would be to divide by negative 3. So in this case, we canceled these out. This is m. We divided by a negative, so we flipped the sign, and 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5. Now, because it's my book will have all of the letters, I believe, will have all of the letters on the left-hand side. So we're done with solving it. Now let's peel it like we did in the other. Okay, we had to flip it. Now let's peel it. So I'm going to put the m right here, the negative 5 right here, and then by doing that, we put the sign back. And I know that's a little bit confusing, but we'll work through it. I think you guys will get it. It just takes some practice. Okay, so we flipped it because we divided by a negative, and we peeled it because we want the letter on the left. Flip and peel. That's what we just did. Sounds like some crazy dance or something. The flip and peel. And they left it alone, but I like to put the letter on the left-hand side. Okay? So, example number 3. It says about 15,000 fruit-eating bats live in Barrow, Colorado, Island. Yearly they eat up 61,440,000 grams of fruit. Write and solve an inequality to find out how many grams of fruit each bat eats yearly. So 15,000 bats. I'm thinking that's 15,000 times x has to be greater than or equal to 61,440,000. Because if there's 15,000, we don't know how much they would each bat would eat when you divide. So the opposite of multiplying right here would be to divide by 15,000. Divide that by 15,000. I don't know about you guys, but I can take those 3 zeros off, and I am going to use, in a problem like that, I say use a calculator. That's why we have them. So 61,440,000. I think I put in too many zeros. Hold on. Let me just do what I put here. 61440 divided by 15. 4,096. That would be grams of fruit each year. Well, it's a lot of fruit. I don't know how big a gram. A gram's not that big, but still. Wow. They did the same thing. They divided 4,096. All right, so let's solve these inequalities. So we look at the side with the letter T, divided by 6. The opposite of dividing by 6 is to multiply by 6, and you do that to both sides. I get T on this side. Now we decide, do we need to flip the sign? No, because we did not multiply by a negative, so the sign stayed the same. And 6 times 4 is 24. So we have T is greater than 24. Okay, so we have negative 1/2 times x. The best way to get rid of a fraction is to multiply by its reciprocal. We want to cancel it out. Those all cancel out. Notice everything. We multiplied by a negative 2 over 1, which is a negative 2. So we have x. We did multiply by a negative, so we have to flip the sign. And 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. We divide here by negative 3 because we're solving for the t. That's negative 3 times t. Divide this side by negative 3. Those cancel out. We flip the sign because we divided by a negative, and the answer is negative 9. And I bet you the book left it that way. We can leave it that way. That's fine. 9 times n, the opposite of timesing by 9 is to divide by 9. We did not divide by a negative, so we don't flip the sign. N is less than 7. A bat weighs about 25 grams and can eat up to 2.5 times its body mass in figs in one night. Man, what pigs those bats are. How many grams of figs can it eat? Weighs about 20, can eat up 2.5 times its body mass. 25 grams can weigh up to 2.5 times its body mass in figs. How many grams of figs can it eat? I don't know. What do you think? I think if they weigh times its body mass, it weighs 25 grams, so wouldn't that just be 25 times 2.5? I think it is. It says times its body mass. How many grams? Yep, it is. So that's going to be 12, 5, 2, 3, 12 placeholder. 4, that would be a 5. 5, 2, 6, and that's 1 decimal place. So it can eat 62.5 grams of figs at night. Wow, that's a lot of figs. So, all right, so the worst part, I mean, besides the fact that you have to remember how to solve with the multiplying and dividing, which is exactly what we did. Let me look, I can tell you in the book, we did these back in, it's the same type of solving that you did back in, let me find it here, 3.2. It's exactly the same type of solving. You just have to flip the sign when you divide or multiply by a negative. So that's it, I think. And I will be trying to help. Please ask for help if you don't understand how to do it. We'll see you next time.